So a few people today have said that they would be quite interested in hearing what is my opinion on life, the universe and everything right about now, with, you know, all the politics and that. So I've been a little bit apprehensive about making this, actually, and I was kind of like a little bit like, ugh, don't really want to do that, because I don't tend to talk about my opinions on things like this. This is definitely going to be an interesting one. It's definitely not something I've done before. However, for reasons that will become apparent over the course of this video, I've kind of felt like it's my responsibility to make it, in a way. So fasten your seatbelts, kids. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Oh, I nearly spilled my coffee. But I was about to advise that you make one yourself. Maybe go get yourself a tea, a nice warm beverage, because we have a nice long discussion ahead of us, and it's going to be perhaps controversial in places. I imagine a lot of people will disagree with me. Maybe some of you will hate me. Let's just discuss. Let's just sit, have a brew. Let's talk about the world. So before I begin, I do need to kind of preface this entire discussion with the fact that, yes, I am a predominantly straight white male, which means that I am quote-unquote privileged, and that I am not currently being persecuted for, you know, something that I can't control. I do understand that a lot of people are gonna be fearing for their lives right now, and quite understandably so. I honestly can't even begin to imagine the kind of things that a lot of people are going through, but the best thing that I can suggest is kind of just stay safe as best you can, take care of one another, kind of band together. Love and unity is definitely the way forward. I just needed to say that. So moving forward, here we go. Oh dear. My opinion on the results of the US presidential election. And so, this may shock you, okay? This may shock you, what I'm about to say, and so I kind of need you to just be prepared, be sitting down, and just listen to the rationale and the reason behind everything, and I will explain. This is going to be a long video, and it's just a jumble of thoughts, but I've tried to kind of structure it as best I can. But believe it or not, I am actually of the opinion that the results of said election are a good thing. Now I can hear the shock. I can hear the shock already. I can just see that a bunch of you are disliking the video. You're flagging it as inappropriate content. You're down there in the comments section like, "Oh Aaron, how can you think this? How can you support this silly man?" And the answer is that I don't. I need to elaborate. Like, this is going to be a long video. I imagine at least 10 to 20 minutes. We'll see. But I will kind of explain everything. And it's like, but Aaron, how can you possibly support these idiotic policies? And I mean, the answer is that I don't. Do I support this big wall? This wall that we're gonna have? We're gonna have a wall between Mexico and the US? Do I support that? No. No. Do I support racism and homophobia and sexism and transphobia and a billion other words that end in either phobia or ism? No. No, I do not. My opinion is that in the long term, I believe this to be a positive outcome, and that is going to take some further explanation. So as I say, this is just a mess of thoughts on paper, but I'm trying to structure it as best as I can. So I'm thinking the best way to approach this is to talk about what happened, like how did we come to this point, and what could we have done differently, and then move into what do we do now, and why is this potentially a good thing, according to me. So first and foremost, what we began to see over the course of the election, and what is actually becoming a lot more prevalent, I've noticed in recent years, is that we're seeing a lot of people take to social media with this whole kind of mentality that, like, I am right, and I know what's best for the world, and I think this and that, and if you don't agree with me, you might as well just unfollow me or block me right now, because I do not have time for you and your ignorance and intolerance. And the fact of the matter is that people do disagree with you. Like, I know that's kind of lame, but it just happens. People don't agree on everything. And so if you have this mentality that you're gonna just block out people that don't think the same things that you think, what you do is you create a little bubble, right? You create this little bubble where what you think is definitely the right thing. And what happens is that all these other people come along, like, I want to be in your little bubble, and particularly with, you know, big influencers on social media, people will look at them and go, they think this, or they do this, and they're really woke, so I should think and do what they think and do. And what happens is that this little bubble kind of perpetuates and expands, and everyone around you thinks the same things that you think. And so, you know, you're scrolling down your Twitter feed, and everyone hates Donald Trump, so how could Donald Trump possibly become the president? Because everyone agrees with you in your little bubble. And the issue is that you've blocked out everyone that thinks differently, and so you have an incredibly narrowed perspective, because you're only seeing things from your point of view. If you're only following people who say things that you agree with, then that's all you're exposed to. And the thing is that people do disagree, like a lot of people disagree with you, because nearly 60 million people, I think, I didn't look at the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's nearly 60 million, voted for Donald Trump. And if you think that he is the worst thing to happen to this earth, 60 million people disagree with you, but you've blocked this out because you're in this little bubble, right? That's not helpful to the world. And it's like when you yell at them and you say things like, oh, you are so racist and homophobic and intolerant and you're just wrong and I don't have time for you, goodbye. Do you honestly think, like, for 1 second, that they're gonna turn around and go, you know what? You're right. My belief system is fundamentally flawed, and everything that I have grown up believing, everything that I was taught by my parents and my grandparents, it's all wrong. Everything that I know is wrong. I'm racist. I am a homophobe. I am a terrible person, and I would have never understood this if you had not shown me the light. Like, really, did you think that was going to happen? Like, no. Because surely by now, from experience, you have realised that if you yell at people and tell them they're wrong, their reaction is going to be, fuck you, you're wrong. Because, like, if a Donald Trump supporter came to you and went, you know, I hate gay people because the Bible says it's a sin, you're not going to turn around and go, actually, I guess you're right, it is a sin, and I'm just going to change my entire point of view. Like, you're not, so why do you expect them to do the same thing? So what we have is two different groups of people, and probably more than two, but different groups of people that think different things, right? And you can't just block them out, because that's why we keep losing things. Like, you know, in school, when you do these, like, essays, and you have to look at an issue, and you have to look at it from both sides, and you have to consider for and against perspectives, and give reasoned arguments, right? They don't just teach you that for a laugh, you know? That is how we should look at the world. Because if we're only looking at the bits that we want to look at, then we're ignoring the fact that is not how the rest of the world looks. Like, we're losing perspective on the bigger picture. And ironically, for people who consider themselves to be very woke, that is ignorant. right? You know, the mentality of if you disagree with me, I will block you is ignorance, because like then you're just losing out on the actual opinions of actual people. Because if you think back, what actually happened when Donald Trump first announced his candidacy? He announced that he was going to be running for the president. Everybody in this little bubble that's really woke was like, lol, what's he doing? He's orange, he has silly hair, he has a silly face, he's loud, he's rude. Does he really think that he can be the president? Lol. And everyone in this little group made their jokes, they made memes, and they wrote erotic fan fiction about Donald Trump, and it was all very funny. It was all just a big lol meme until it wasn't anymore. Because while everyone here was laughing and joking, Trump was out there talking to everyone else. As I've said, literally right from the start, that people underestimate him, because despite how he may appear, he is actually a very smart man. 90% of the things that he says publicly that are really dumb and stupid are probably very precisely calculated, and they were probably said for a specific reason, to draw reactions from people, and to kind of create controversy, which is how he drummed up the majority of his support. Because let's be honest, you can go on until the cows come home that he's stupid and he's an idiot, but if he was really that stupid, he wouldn't have won the presidency. What people seem to forget throughout this whole thing is that Donald Trump is a salesman. And what salespeople do is they present people with problems they didn't know they had, and they offer the solution, right? So, you've got that Hoover, that vacuum cleaner there. I wouldn't be caught dead with a vacuum cleaner like that. If my neighbours saw that I had this vacuum cleaner, I would be the laughingstock of the entire neighbourhood. Honestly, you want rid of that thing. But, luckily for you, I have this brand new super duper vacuum cleaner, right? Super duper. And, because I like you, I'm going to give you it at a really low price. So you need to get rid of that thing, and you want to buy this right now. That is the sort of thing that Trump does, but on a much bigger scale. So while everyone was laughing and joking and making memes, Trump was going around all the other people who are, you know, not as woke and therefore corruptible, and he was saying like, hey, you know those Mexicans over there, yeah, they're gonna sleep with your wife. All of them. Every last one of them is gonna sleep with your wife and your wife. And they're gonna kidnap your children, and they're gonna come into your homes and rob you of everything you have, and then burn the house to the ground. That's what they're gonna do to every single one of you. And so we need to stop these Mexicans. So what I, Donald Trump, I'm gonna do for you, we're gonna build a wall. I'm gonna build a big wall, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be really great. So whilst everyone here was talking and making memes about Harambe, yeah, Harambe, who just as an aside, got 11,000 votes in this election. 11,000 votes for a gorilla. And people don't seem to see that there's a problem with the system. But while everyone here was talking about Harambe, Trump was going around instilling fear in the hearts of the people, telling them that Mexicans or Muslims or black people or whatever else were the problem, and that he, Donald Trump, could solve it. He was drumming up support. And by the time that people realised, oh shit, he's like the main Republican candidate, he could actually possibly maybe like really be the president, it was too fucking late, because he'd already got everyone. And the worst part is that it's not even the first time this has happened. Like let's go back a bit to the last general election here in the UK, right? What happened? The entire thing basically became a meme. For some reason, Ed Miliband was a teen heartthrob. There was Nigel Farage being him, doing whatever he does, all that UKIP stuff. Then we had the whole Brexit thing. What happened there? It became a meme. Again, for some reason, Jeremy Corbyn became a teen heartthrob. Farage was back doing Farage things and having his face plastered across a bus. And then there was all of the stuff about David Cameron and pigs, which was a distraction, and it worked. Honestly, it got to the stage where even David Cameron was like, hold on boys, hold the phone. This whole Brexit thing might actually be a bad idea. Oh dear. Perhaps we should change stance on this. Oh dear. If Brexit goes through and we leave the EU, I shall resign as Prime Minister of Great Britain. And you know what happened? We were complacent and we made memes and we thought, you know what? People aren't really that racist. They're not going to want to leave the EU just because they're scared of immigrants or because they want this money that's been promised to the NHS that's never going to fucking go to the NHS. But you know what? They were. And we laugh about it because otherwise you just have to face the bleak reality of everything. People were just too complacent, and I said from the beginning that it was probably going to be the same thing with Trump. Like, people were just too busy making memes and stuff to actually do anything that would actually change anything. And so if that was what happened, moving forward, how could I possibly perceive this as a good thing? And I mean, let's be brutally honest, right? If Remain had won during the whole Brexit thing, we would have all breathed a big collective sigh of relief, like, thank God we dodged that bullet, thank God we aren't as stupid as we thought we were, and we would have probably just carried on with things the way they were, like we would have just gone back to our daily lives, and it would have been fine. If Hillary Clinton had won the presidential election, we would have all breathed a big collective sigh of relief and gone, thank God we dodged that bullet, and we probably would have just gone on with our regular daily lives and not really worried about things. And then in 2020, when Kanye fucking West is running for the president, we would have looked back and gone, lol, remember when Donald Trump ran? Wasn't that just a big meme? Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Except no. Because with things the way they are, right, with Britain leaving the EU and with Trump in line to be the President of the United States, one of the most powerful men in the entire world, things are real, right? We can't just kind of go on like, la-di-da, we dodged those bullets. No, things are real. And what we're seeing is that, you know, beyond the scope of this little bubble and all the woke people, more and more people are beginning to notice that there's actually a little bit of a problem. Because after the general election in the UK, there was this whole thing where there were a lot of protests in London that almost turned into riots, to the best of my knowledge. I can't really remember. But there was this thing where it wasn't actually televised or publicised in any of the kind of media outlets. And people were kind of like, hold on. If people are protesting the day after an election, but it's not on the news, something's going on here. Something is wrong with the system. And I'm gonna be real, if, you know, we had Remain and we had Hillary, then we probably wouldn't have made as much progress, which sounds counterintuitive, because, you know, obviously with Trump being in place, then it's a massive step backwards in terms of, you know, racism and equal rights for LGBTQ plus people, and all those sorts of things. But in the long term, prospectively, potentially, it could be a better thing, because as a global community right now, we are going to go through some incredibly dark times. Like, I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. Like, if you look at the world, and if you listen to most people being all doom and gloom right now, things are pretty shit, right? Like, things kind of suck. But the greatest adversity breeds the greatest potential for change, right? Because it will allow the people who are kind of fed up of everything to rise up above stuff. And I'm not saying like, oh my god, revolution, like, you know, fucking Les Mis style. And I'm not saying, oh my god, America should start a civil war, because, you know, wars are stupid. But what we're gonna see is that the proliferation of ill-fitting leaders like Trump, for example, will lend credence to those people who can actually do stuff and actually make change. You know, those people like Gandhi and Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King Jr. and Malala. Because look, right, let's take it right back. I'm talking right the way back to the 15th century. I'm not a history person, don't quote me on this. But the US Constitution and the system of government that we all know today, that was created by people, okay? People got together in a room and said, yes, this is how things should be done. We're agreed, gentlemen? Yes, this is how things should be done. And together they created government. And over the years, there have been amendments to the Constitution. There have been changes, and those changes were put forth by people. So what we now need to think is that, hold on. I'm a person. You're a person, right? Right? Those people, right? Those people made stuff. All the laws and the systems and the countries and the constructs, everything that we just accept at face value, that was all made by people. And if people can make up that stuff, like, literally government was just made up by people. If people can just make up things like that, why can't we just make stuff up? Steve Jobs had this really great speech where he essentially said that once you realize that this world that we just see and just accept it as being what it is, was actually made by people, and you realize that you can prod it and you can shape it and you can mold it and you can change stuff, it kind of changes your whole perspective on everything. Because honestly, right now, people are scared. And that is really understandable, right? It is. This entire election was predicated on fear. Trump was spreading fear by going, oh, those Mexicans, oh, those immigrants. And, you know, people were scared of there being a female president because that's never happened before. And then also, conversely, people are scared of Trump because he's a big, loud, shouty man. And it's like, towards the end of it, people began peddling this narrative like, oh, vote for Hillary because she's the lesser of two evils. And, like, you know, not because we actually want her, because she's actually going to do anything, just because she's slightly less scary than Trump. People were scared of that man. People are still scared of that man, even more so now that he is actually prospectively one of the most powerful men in the world. And there is just so much fear right now. And speaking of great speeches, like the Steve Jobs one, the actor Jim Carrey has one where he talks about how every action that we make, at its core, is rooted in either love or fear. When you really boil things down, you either do things because they're a loving, respectful thing to do, or you do them because you are scared of something else. So it's kind of this balance, And so if the entire election was predicated on fear, then really the answer should surely be based in love and in kind of spreading peace and unity and community and that sort of thing. Because really we do need to be working together to create a better world for all peoples. And so that means, you know, can we like refrain from the intolerance a little bit? And that includes woke people who, you know, shun everyone that doesn't think the same as them. And that includes the people who don't think the same as them, who are like, oh, gay people shouldn't be married, and black people don't have rights, and whatever. Like, we need to work together. We need to work together. Because if you ask any financial expert when the best time to make money is, their answer will be during a recession or a crash. Right? And that sounds counterintuitive. Like, aren't those things when everybody loses money? But yeah, if you think about it, in 2008, when everything went to shit, a lot of people lost a lot of money. But that money didn't just disappear. Like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of complicated economic stuff, and stuff would have been adjusted for inflation, and they probably printed a bunch more money, which would have, you know, messed it up even more. But if all that money was lost, then other people had to have gained it, right? Other people had to have gotten that money. Which means that there are people out there who made millions, if not billions, during the recession. And I mean, it's just sort of like a logical progression, I guess, in my head at least, that if the best time to make money is during a financial crisis, then surely a global crisis should be the best time to spread like love and peace and just kind of messages of positivity. And I mean, maybe that is naive of me to say, and maybe it's all just hippy-dippy bullshit, but I just feel that so many people right now just need a little bit of hope, because things are just really bleak. Like, everyone just seems to be like doom and gloom, and I mean, it's understandable. I understand, as I said in the beginning of the video, like, if you are currently fearing for your life, then I understand. Well, I couldn't understand what you're going through, but I can understand. Genuinely, I just feel that people need a little bit of hope, and I mean, I think this could be it, because clearly, the world has a lot of problems, right? It does. But the beautiful thing about problems is that they are also opportunities to create solutions. And so we can kind of sit here and just be like, shit, the world is a terrible place. Or we could kind of, you know, look to the stories of those people who have gone before us, and those people who have already made great change, and we can do our best to follow in their footsteps. Because, as I said, if things had gone the way we wanted them to, then we would have probably just remained complacent. But now that things aren't great and we understand that there are definitely problems, this presents opportunities for people to rise up above and to try to create solutions. And at the very least, I mean, you know, you don't necessarily have to see yourself as the next Mother Teresa, but like, just spread a little bit of love and light in these dark times. You know what I mean? Like, just call a friend or a family member and just tell them you're there, and that together, that as cheesy as this is getting, together we're all gonna get through it. And honestly, the more problems that we have, and the greater the scale of the purported global emergency, the more likely it is that people will kind of rise up and that people will do stuff. Because, you know, that's what entrepreneurialism and politics is all about. It's about solving problems. And if we have problems, then that means people can try to do shit to solve them. And so, I know people will disagree. And I know that this video, you know, people probably won't make it to the end. They will probably hear the beginning bit and just go, yep, this guy's a dickhead. But as I said in the beginning, I was kind of apprehensive to make it because I don't make videos like this. I don't talk about politics and the world. As I said, the whole, you know, Jim Carrey speech, it's like we can act out of love or we can act out of fear. And if I chose to not make this video because I was scared, then, you know, that would be kind of hypocritical of me, really. So the loving action to take was to make the video, and yeah, people will probably end up hating me for it, but hopefully I can have reached just a couple of people and helped spread a little bit of hope, because, you know, it's not all bad. Like, I'm not gonna say everything's great, because it's not, right? What we have now is a kind of global situation that is not very desirable, which is more likely to motivate people to do something about it. And so, in the long run, potentially, I think that this could be a good thing. What we need to try to do is band together and act lovingly and kind of just move towards a brighter future, if you will. So, obviously this was a bit heavy. It's not what I usually make. I will be back with a kind of light-hearted comedy video soon. But yeah, generally, just take care of each other. Like, you know, just tweet nice stuff to your friends, or like send them a nice message, like text them or send them something on Facebook or something. Like, just go give someone a hug, man. Like, god damn. we just need to stop hating everyone. And oh, I just dreamed that one day we could all get together and eat a cake made of rainbows and smiles. She doesn't even go here. This video has gone too far.